is the GIS wizard for the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for Massachusetts. So we're really grateful that Nikki is able to work with us to do maps, and we're excited this year because she's doing all kinds of fun online stuff that will fit with our remote Envirothon year. Okay, how's that?
Thank you.
Welcome, Nikki.
Okay, so now should I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I will share my screen. Come on. Okay. All right, so I should just start going, right?
Go for it.
Okay. All right, so I am going to talk about, I'm going to talk very briefly, 2 secs, what GIS is. Then I'm going to talk a bit about Arcgis Online, which is the application that we're using this year because we're remote. Although it does certainly have advantages over paper maps. So we might continue to do this when we are no longer remote. And then I'll talk about the application that I made for this year's topic. Okay, so GIS, so the classic thing about GIS, it's an information system, a framework for gathering and managing and analyzing data. But the thing is, there's this other definition down below here. It's a framework to organize, communicate, and understand the science of our world. And the thing about this new thing that we're using this year, this online application, is that it's a wonderful way to share. And hopefully we'll see that. And it also brings GIS out to many, many more people. So what I used to build this is something called Arcgis Online. It's made by ESRI. You can start, anybody can make an account and it's free. So here is a URL, and this doesn't have to, this is available in the map application. So nobody has to like write down this URL, but you create an account through here. There's also all sorts of learning resources for it, tons and tons of stuff of learning stuff. So the first thing I have down here is from the Association of American Geographers. Sorry, it's now the American Association of Geographers. They flipped that because there are a lot of Canadians. The American Association of Geographers has this great resource, lots and lots of stuff for teachers and students. There's also lots and lots of stuff at ESRI itself at this Learn Arcgis Learning Hub at that URL. So these are wonderful places to go. Once you've created an account to log on, you go to www.arcgis.com, you sign in with your account and you're good to go. You can make maps with all sorts of data that are available. I just have this slide in here because after you make an account, you have to pay attention to the email that you're going to make, and you have to use this link. I screwed this up 5 times when I was making an account way back when this system first started. So I just want to mention that you have to wait for an email from them, and they will link you up to this a whole account with this whole system behind it that they make for you for free. Okay, so important things to remember about Arcgis Online. It is not a substitute for Arcgis Desktop. So you can't do things like how much impervious surface is in this watershed. You actually sort of can, but it costs money, and you can't do that in the application I created, and it's a little bit more advanced. So generally, the online system is more for data exploration and for sharing. So that's what it's good for, and it's better than desktop GIS for those things. It's very easy to use. You can add data from all sorts of places, and built into the system that we'll see are all kinds of data. I mean, lots and lots and lots of data. So I do have these hints to find this lots and lots and lots of data, because by lots, you know, I mean millions and millions of data layers. So how do you muck through everything that's there to find what you want? You may want to add geographic qualifiers so that when you say soils, you may want to say Massachusetts. When you say, you know, water bodies or water, you may want to say Massachusetts. You have to pay attention to the source of the data. So what I have here, MassGIS is a great place to get data. I did a search for open space earlier today, and I found MassGIS, and I also found Sudbury Valley Trustees. And you can add data from anybody, but the problem with adding data from I don't want to call Sudbury Valley Trustees, which is a wonderful land trust, I don't want to call them flaky, but you don't have any control over their data, and they could remove it at any time. You don't know, maybe it's just in their area and not in Eastern Massachusetts, for example. You want to pay a whole bunch of attention to where the data is coming from. And along those lines, you want to look for, if you see this check mark here, this green check mark, that's authoritative data. Oh, I didn't have a, sorry, I missed my quote. Authoritative data, that is a good authoritative single source, the single record. That's the data you want to use. And you never want to add depreciated data.
No.
You see that other icon. And please do have questions if anybody has a question, please. So if you see these, you'll see these, and we'll see that. Okay, so this is the map application that I created for you for the Envirothon. It doesn't look like this when you first get on it. Sorry, the best way to get to it is to go to this place, HTTPS. It's mass-eoeea.maps.arcgis.com. I'll go through just a couple slides and then we'll hop onto the thing. So these are the buttons that I added to this application. And this application will start, there's a user's guide. So you will get this exact thing, telling you what all of these buttons do. And we'll look at these buttons. The buttons on the left do stuff. The buttons on the right, on the upper right of the application above Newburyport and Salisbury, those are data, categories of data. So we have temperature projections, we have hydrologic features, we have, environmentally important land. And then we have the built landscape. I threw dams in again. There's also, what did I put in there? Oh, wastewater treatment plants are also in built landscape. So sort of man-made things are in there. And we'll see all of these in a minute. Okay, so let's take a look at it and then I'll come back. Kittle. So here's the, sorry.
So Nikki said her internet is cutting in and out.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can you see this? Did I have it right? Is it okay? Yeah.
It was the sound that was cutting.
Oh, really? Oh dear. All right. Yeah, my internet stinks. Sorry, Xfinity. Sorry. The good one in Xfinity, it still stinks. Okay, so I clicked on that and we get this little splash. It's called a splash screen. This little screen pops up, and this screen used to be one of these buttons, but I only can have 5 buttons that you see up in the upper left, and I wanted to add a widget. So something else. I wanted to add the capability to filter the data. So I have to throw this in a splash screen. So this, you can, if you click, no, I need to change that. It says here, I'll change it to black. You can make it so this doesn't come up, but I wouldn't do that ever, because here's the guide. So if you click here, you will get a new window in your browser that has the guide to how to use it. And if you click here, you'll have that slide that I showed with the URLs for those online resources for ArcGIS, including the link to sign up for an account and where to go after you have an account. So those 2 things are here. And then I just have a little blurb about what the current topic is, what the Envirothon does. Okay, so here's the application. And I'll just go through these buttons. You can zoom in, and the only thing you're seeing now are basin boundaries. You can zoom in with these buttons. You can also zoom in with the scroll button on your mouse. Now it only has set zooms, as you can see, but hopefully that's not a problem. This will zoom back out to the original extent. This will go to where you are if you have location settings, set on your computer, if you have that available. And this just goes whole screen. Okay, so these are the important buttons, and these here are the important buttons. So this will show a legend. Right now, it's just basin boundaries because that's the only data we have drawing up. This will change the base map, and we have all kinds of base maps available. So if you want to change it to the 2019, I'll zoom in so you can see what that is, 2019 orthos from MassGIS. Also, you can change it if you don't want much of anything. This one is kind of nice, a light gray, if you want to emphasize the data that you will be drawing. This is the filter. We'll talk about that later. That's the hardest one. This one is cool. This is where you can add data. You can search ArcGIS online, or you can actually add your own. If you have a little zipped up shapefile, you can add it to the map. And this is, you can share the map. And when you share the map, and you can email it, you can share it, Twitter, whatever, this URL will draw up exactly this map. When I add some layers, it'll draw up those layers. Where you zoom to, it'll draw up there. So you'll get exactly what you're looking at is what's included in this link. So you can share this map. Okay, let's grab some data. So here are climate projections. Now, the climate projection data is kind of cool, but kind of not cool. Okay, here is projected annual maximum. And let's go to temperature greater than 90 degrees, 95, let's do that one. So this is the days with temperature 95, and we have this by basin. And if you click on any of these data points, you will get, remember this little arrow here, you will get all sorts of information. Now, I have not yet had time. I'm going to work on making this a little bit easier to use. But here are, delta is what you're looking at, what you may want to look at. So this is in 2030, there is going to be a change of close to 5 additional days over 90 degrees. In the year 2090, there will be an additional close to 23 days with temperature over 95 degrees, sorry. And we have 90, 95, 100. We also have less low temperatures. We have changes in the projected annual. Now, I understand and I know that the scale of these, this is by basin, and so you can't really do any local things. What you can do is discuss the mitigation, perhaps that the ocean shows. This is change in temperature. So, and we can tell that by the legend. Let's go to the legend now. And here we go, projected annual maximum temperature. And you can see that the ocean mitigates that quite a bit. So although the scale of these data aren't great, they do show some interesting patterns in climate change. Here are changes in precipitation, projected. Let me take this off. Oh, sorry. Oh. Here is days of precipitation greater than 4 inches, which is a little scary, but okay. Anyway, those are the precipitation data. Here we have more data.
Can I ask a question, Nikki?
Yeah.
Days with precipitation greater than 4 inches, is this additional days or days in total? And what do we compare that to?
It's going to be the delta. So here you will see for all of these, you should see the baseline.
Okay.
So the baseline is not much, very, very small. So here's the delta. So in all of these, it's change away from, and actually it's not that much. It's important to look at the
Twice as many. We lose audio.
water features. So here is hydrology. Now, if you see, I'm going to take this off. Okay, so those are rivers and streams. If you see this grade thing here, this is wetlands, it means that you're not zoomed in enough to see it. So I'll click that on, you won't see anything. And as I zoom in, you will see this. Now we'll be able to see wetlands. Wetlands features, I don't even know if my monitor is good enough. There's some wetlands here. So if you see something grayed out, it is because you're not zoomed in enough for the layer to draw at this point. Okay, I'll leave on major basins, but I'm going to take these off. And here's the legend down here. But also you'll see if we go to this legend. Now we've got lakes and ponds and streams because that's what's drawing. Okay, what else do we have on the map? We've got water withdrawals. These are withdrawals requiring a water management permit. We've got water supply protection areas, both groundwater and surface water. And we have surface water supply watersheds, so watersheds contributing to public water supplies. All kinds of flood data, particularly at the coast. Oh, this is a mistake, that shouldn't be there. So under flooding, we have dams, and I'll go to the coast. I'm going to zoom out and go to the coast. And unfortunately for people inland, we have all kinds of wonderful storm surge data and sea level rise data that are not available, obviously, for inland areas. For inland areas, we have FEMA flood data. And I do need to mention that there's no FEMA data at all for Franklin County. So I apologize for that. There's just nothing. We just don't, MassGIS just doesn't have anything. So Franklin County has no flood data. And then we have environmentally important layers. So this is protected open space. This is priority habitat and biomap 2 core habitat and critical natural landscape. So those are environmentally important areas. And then we have what I call the built landscape. So that's impervious surface. It's and that really won't show up until you zoom in. Structures, so buildings, those will come up now. High schools, sorry, middle and high schools are also on this map so that students can identify their school. And if you click on it, you will get the name of the school. Oh, that's a middle school. It serves up to grade 8. So I'm saying it's called an elementary school, but it serves up to grade 8. So anything that serves grades 6 through 12 are on here. Okay, and that's it for the data. Does anyone have any questions? Does anybody have any data that they would like me to add?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
Is there information on where this data comes from? Say I'm looking at my community and I see some information that I'm not sure is correct. And how do I check? In other words, the maps are not perfect.
Maps are not perfect.
Apologies, Nikki, yes. So yeah, so I think it's important, like any other source of information, to know what's behind the information.
Yep. So
who owned it, how it was gathered, that kind of thing.
Yep. So that are these three little dots here and those item details.
Okay.
That I mentioned. So I just clicked on item details for the wastewater treatment plants, and this is what we have here. So we see that this is draft. We see that this, and the date is very important. We see that this was updated in June so it's close to 1.5 years old, and it says more or less this is where the data came from, and this has a link to more complete data. So if I click here then, so this is the item details. This is what's within this ArcGIS online system. But in some cases, there's more information about the data, perhaps at the MassGIS metadata page. If it's a MassGIS layer, perhaps at the EPA. Let's see where this goes. This one goes to MassGIS, I believe. So if you click on that, you get more information about the layer. And I'm really glad you asked that question, because this becomes important when we talk about filtering data. Did you lose me again?
Nope.
Oh, good. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. So yeah. Remember 3 dots and these item right here where it says show item details. Show item details. So here is the MassGIS page, and this does not have very much, does it? Oh, this is served up, I can tell you, by MEPA. MEMA, Emergency Management. Yeah, this is MEMA, and she's not very good with her data, metadata. She should have a link in here. But it's from MassGIS, so you can go to MassGIS and find more information about it. This is one of the few layers coming from MEMA. Most of the layers in the map, if you go to these layers, they should have much more robust metadata pages, item details. Okay, so here's more information, and here's just a little. Okay, because that's a really important question. So, any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to go back, if I may, to my PowerPoint so I can remember what it is. That's not right. That's why I'm Will. That I wanted to show you. Okay, these are the things I wanted to talk about. Oh, how apt. Okay, that's supposed to say little arrows pop up, not kittle arrows.
Nikki,
yes,
we're still.
To do it again. Sorry. Yes, I have to rethink. Sorry. Let me go to Zoom. I am so sorry. I have a tiny little monitor, so it's kind of hard for me. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Oh.
It does.
Okay, so not the kittle arrows and the little arrows. I don't know if you remember, I clicked on something and the name of the basin came up. That's because I had basin showing, but what I really wanted to look at was a school. So in those pop-ups that come up, if you click on something and there's multiple layers underneath, there's a little arrow up in the upper right of the pop-up, and that will cycle through the different layers that you are showing. So you can access information about all the layers that are in the map where you click through that little, it's not an arrow exactly, it's a chevron, it's a triangle on its side. The add data widget, item details, underline and bold. Item details is extremely important. I'll show you how to add data, but this is just what Will was asking about. Item details tells you what you need to know about the data, and it's very important. So filter widget, read the item details so that you get the data, so that you understand how to filter the data. I'll show you how to filter data in a minute. And you won't necessarily know, well, how can I filter the data? Let's say that I want to know what's protected open space. Does open space have the information in the layer to let me do that? And the item details will help you figure out what the we call them attributes, what the characteristics of the data are that you can use to filter. Again, the FEMA data, there's nothing for Franklin. We also have, unfortunately, in this state, two kinds of FEMA data, good data and bad data. There's good data for about half the state, and that is called the National Flood Hazard Data Layer. That data layer is new and it uses hydrologic evaluations. The old data is the Q3 data. That's another half of the state, minus Franklin County, which, as I said, has nothing. And that is just the old USGS topos, the elevation. And so that just uses elevation. There's no more analysis done to help with that data. So we call it good FEMA data and bad FEMA data. They call it good FEMA data and bad FEMA data. And we're a little bit lacking in this state. So I just want you to be aware of that, given that flooding is important.
Is it out of line here? Is it too far afield to ask what you know about hydrologic evaluation? What are they doing there? They're looking at timing of floods, or?
Yeah, and they're looking at man-made features, and they're looking about the nature of the hydro features. And it's not just elevation and where the water flows. They're looking at all kinds of things. I think they look at culverts. They look at all kinds of things.
Okay.
And hence why I guess we don't have, and I do not have a good sense of how much of the rest of the country has the National Flood Hazard Data Layer, this NFHD. I think Massachusetts is behind, and I don't really know why exactly. But yeah, our FEMA data, which is going to be so important. It should be complete within 5 years, but who knows? Yeah, it's really, I don't know the details about their analysis, but it's pretty, I remember being impressed by it when I heard what it was. And then again, also want to just mention quickly, again, the limitations of the prediction data, how I apologize for the scale of it. It was a national data set. That's how it was done. And all it can really do, you can't use any site-specific evaluation. That wouldn't be appropriate at all. You could just sort of look at trends across the state. And to be honest, some of them make no sense to me, the trends. I mean, it's clear that the ocean mitigates increased heat, but there are some others where you look at the map and you go, what is going on? But maybe you guys will be better at that than I am. Okay, so let's go back. So now I need to go back to the application. So I have to stop my share and share again with the map application. And I want to show you how to filter data because I think this will be kind of fun, I hope, and hopefully not just fun, but useful. So the way you do this, you click here to do a filter, and I'm going to use as an example dams. You see here's all the layers in the map. And one thing you could do also is limit the projection data to a particular year, but I'm going to use dams, and I'm going to identify dams that are at high risk because I think that that's really more important. So the layer is dams, and now I'm going to add an expression. And the expression that I'm going to add is I happen to know hazard code is, and then this pull down will tell me what the values are, high hazard. And I'm going to say, I have to turn the layer on, don't I? Okay. Did that not take? Oh my goodness, dams. And then, sorry. And then, okay. So that expression was that, but I can just put dams on. They're the built environment. I'm going to take schools off. And I'm going to find some dams. Hopefully we have dams. There they are. Whoa, there seem to be a lot in Waltham. So these red are the dams, and we can determine that by looking at the legend, high hazard dams. I want to add, perhaps I want to add another, I'm going to add, I also want to know about significant hazard. So I want either one. So we have to change this. If you do this, it can't match all of these because a dam can't be both high hazard and significant hazard. So it needs to be any of those. I'm gonna, okay. And now that didn't work. Darn it. That should have worked. Sorry about that. Any of the following. Sorry, hazard code is significant. And there we go. Oh, I said take that off. Okay.
I noticed that it took a while on my computer for these to show up.
Thank you for mentioning that, because this system can be slow, and frankly, some days it works better than others. It could take a little while for the map to come up because there are an awful lot of data layers in it. So just be patient, it will come up. So now you can see, if we do the legend, it should say that significant hazard is in fact yellow, and yes, it is. So here we have both high hazard and significant hazard dams as categorized by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, which we should be able to determine by going to show item details. And here's information about this layer. Okay, so I think that's really all I have to show. I can add, oh no, sorry, I want to show you how to add data. Sorry, let's do a search. And I'm going to search for ArcGIS Online, and I'm going to search for soils because I know that ESRI has these, if I could spell it properly.
Let's look for spoils.
That might work too. Okay, I can't, my monitor is so bad. So it's very important, I think I mentioned this, just where the data come from. And so you want to look for ESRI is a good place to publishing. You sometimes soils I can do, I would often here add MassGIS. Now I'm not sure MassGIS actually publishes their soils, it's a big data layer and they don't have the room yet on their servers. But if I was to do something like wetlands, I would want to add MassGIS. Just because I want to know, I want a data set that I know comes from a valid source. So here we go. Here's wetlands change. Here's Mass DEP wetlands, and all you do is add. If you click on details, you will get that item's details page, and you can find out, is this the data layer that I expected it to be? So I just want to tell you that there is a wealth of information here. There is anything that you want. The soils actually is really, really cool. There are so many attributes in the ESRI soils layer. So anything that you can think of, you could search for here. You could add, as I said, a file of your own data in a shapefile, zipped up shapefile. And lots of different people have these, what they're called web services. And that's what we're using and to make this. And so if you go to places like the EPA or the USGS or MassGIS, you will often, they will say, here is the link to our service. And so it's a long URL and you just can paste it in here and that will appear on this map. So this add data really, I think, increases the flexibility of the map. And don't forget, And so, yeah, that's it. That's the application. Any questions? I'm going to close this and just remind you, if you click on here, this splash screen will give you this will remind you about are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
This will remind you about the show item details, and you can change the transparency and move layers up and down. Click here to draw the layer, and then here are hints on how to do the filter button, because that is the most complicated tool that we have here. Everything else, I believe, is pretty self-explanatory. Here is an explanation of all of the data, what the data sets are and the buttons. I tried to get little icons that were self-explanatory, but that's a little hard with this size. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
I think
Nikki, could you paste the link into the chat function so everybody has it?
I sure can.
Maybe now you know how to like open it.
Yes. So I'm sending you to our home page. Now, what happens with our home page is that as new things are built, we lose our status as the very first application, but I will keep an eye on this and constantly tweak it so that you'll be at least on the front page, the front 4 applications at this URL. There are arrows to scroll to the right where there are more applications, and hopefully it'll stay on the front page, but if you don't see it on the front page, we'll definitely throughout this Envirothon season, and I'll try and keep it in the first 4, but just scroll to the right if you don't see it. Did everybody get that? Yeah. Okay. So that's it. And I would encourage people who have interest in this to create an account, play around, because there really is a, oh my goodness, there is just it's wonderful. It's designed to be easy to use. Of course, as it gets more and more robust, its functionality that does make it more and more complicated, but it is still really designed to be easy to use, much more so than any desktop GIS. So
I have a question for the group in terms of, I mean, you have probably had experience with getting familiar with a tool like this. Would it be helpful to have some questions that require you to use the different pieces of the tool? Or do you think you can just explore on your own? It's a question for coaches and teams. Is that clear?
I sort of threw in everything that I could think of because I didn't want to, well, everything that I could think of that was available is what I should say. So,
No, but
yeah.
I mean, like for me, it would be helpful to have a question like, what's up with the well, I was wondering what was up with this Norumbega reservoir in Waltham or something, because it had so many high-risk dams on it.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that this map wouldn't explain that, but some questions like that require you to zero in on certain places and certain attributes. I don't know. That's helpful to me. I don't know if it would be helpful to other people. If it isn't, we shouldn't do it. So I don't know if that question is clear, people could answer that. If not, ignore it. Or...
Maybe people are just overwhelmed.
I don't know. Okay, Britta, can you unmute people? Unmute the group now? Is that possible?
A lot of people are able to talk.
Okay.
Erin and Olivia, is it okay if it's probably going to make you a panelist, which might have you open your, you might need to turn off your video if you don't want to be part of this. But I will switch you over. Anybody else, you're welcome to, I believe you can all. Sorry, Olivia.
And if anybody has any questions or any suggestions, please get in touch with me. My name is here on the, it would be at the website on this presentation. And then my email is just @mass.gov. So feel free to contact me anytime with any questions or.
Why don't you, would you type it in the chat real quick?
I will.
Would you please? That'd be great. Then everybody's got it right there. They can copy it. And I will, you can also, if you can't find that info, you can of course email me at massmarathon@gmail.com and I can connect you with Nikki at any point.
Hopefully I've spelled this right. I think so. I love my computer. It does analysis really well, but the monitor stinks. It was just something I bought really fast at Costco when we went home in March. And I got lucky, but the monitor is terrible. Can't see anything by the end of the day. I think that's correct though. So yeah, please feel free to contact me. Any suggestions, anything you want me to add to the map that I can get, I'll be happy to.
And it may be that people need some time to poke around in it. I'm sorry, maybe I should have had you put the link in earlier so they could start digging well, although then they wouldn't even pay attention.
And don't forget, yeah, and people can add their own data, which I think it really enhances the usefulness of this.
We could have a follow-up session for questions in a week or something, maybe.
No? In January.
In January or something. When you
Thanksgiving week. You're so funny, Will.
Yeah.
January. That would be fine. And then there's Christmas and New Year's.
Nikki, you set the time. I'm just suggesting that it might be helpful.
No, absolutely. I just think that, yeah.
Coach, I think you're right, but I think students probably would need to kind of play around with this and see what they might find useful before they really get to that level of questions. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some map layers and functionality that they maybe haven't even begin to thought of yet or sort of think on. So I think they need some time to look through the current issue and their presentation before they get to that point. I think that might be where they're at right now.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I do want to say that I will be improving the pop-ups and cleaning up the pop-ups. It's very time consuming. There are a huge number of layers in this map, and creating good looking pop-ups is very time consuming. So I've done a few, but I just haven't had the time to do all of them. So the map will be changing in the next month or so. Yeah, you can tweak these things forever to improve them. They can always be improved. So yeah, I just want to mention that in case students see something change.
Yeah, so I would just ask Justin again and Steve, and I don't know if there are any other coaches there or teams want to weigh in. Are there anything we can do to make it easier to explore, or should we just hand it to you as it is?
Well,
I think the verdict is I need to figure out my own reasons to explore.
Yeah, I need to just explore it as well and just kind of
Yeah, personally,
see
I
what we
think
can do with it.
Okay.
And if you think of something that would help you, that would be another thing to email Nikki about, or Will or I, and we can relay to her. If you're like, gosh, it would be really cool if fill in the blank after you've had time to check it out. Let us know, and we can fix, add, change.
Here's one other question, Dominique. Okay, is it possible to create some maps here showing stuff that we find interesting, and then create a slideshow with it, or even a video with it? Thinking about presentations.
only through screenshots.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this tool, this Arcgis Online, has other ways to make maps. One very popular one is a slider map, and people have probably seen that with disasters, floods, things where before and after. That's something that this system does. It's not, because I had to present so much data, I had to create this map in this sort of mapping environment, but there are many different ones. Yeah, but with this, the only way to present something is to get a screenshot. I mean, you can share it. If you send a URL, somebody else can bring up the exact same map. But to, like, in a PowerPoint, it would just be screenshot.
Okay, thanks.
All right, anybody else have any other comments or questions that you want to voice now while we've got Nikki right here? You're welcome to do that. Otherwise, we'll, like we keep saying, you're welcome to email. And
Absolutely.
What a cool tool.
Please.
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
You're welcome. It is a cool tool. It's great for sharing, I think, and exploring.
Thank you for that demonstration. It was really helpful.
Oh, good. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Woohoo!
Hey.
Gotcha.